Solutions to creating a life of purpose on a regular basis, and a story of a family that was locked in a bomb shelter for 19 hours, and the mother's greatest concern might surprise you. Welcome to No Bow Tie, where we conquer emptiness and frustration, discover our uniqueness, and live with unrelenting joy. I'm John No Bow Tie Swoboda, musician and author. I had a client come in last week who was suffering with depression. And I will tell you, I am not a psychologist and I do not make any claims for cure of mental disorder. However, when she sat down, she said something to me that got my attention, and I believe you can relate to it. She said that when she has depression, that she always loses her sense of purpose. But then she leaned forward as if she had a major insight. She said, but you know what? I think it might be the opposite. When I'm not working on my sense of purpose, I tend to fall into a deeper depression. Today's episode is just about that, how to create new ways to live a life of purpose on a daily basis. Be sure to subscribe. I had another insight knock on my door when I was listening to a radio show called This American Life, hosted by Ira Glass. You may have heard it. If you haven't, Ira, when he does the stories, he doesn't focus on the stats and the politics behind the story. He looks through the windows at the hearts of the people who are in situations that may seem common in a news flash, but are very particular when they become a personal experience. In a recent episode called Family Meeting, I saw the impact of what is arguably the greatest human concern. The story took place in Israel. Eitan and Mahal were locked in a bomb shelter. These bomb shelters were built as add-on to houses to ward off missile attack. And they were in the bomb shelter with their two kids, ages 9 and 13, for 19 hours. They had to stay completely quiet. They're shaking with anxiety. They were ridden with fear. They had no food or water. And they had to just sit for 19 hours waiting for it to be over, never knowing if their demise was on the way. These shelters are meant for barricades against blasts, so they don't have huge locks on the door to keep invaders out. So while the enemy soldiers were roaming the streets and just killing everybody, the young, the old, the innocent everywhere, knocking down everything in their path, burning buildings, taking out power supplies, the family waited, not knowing if bullets were going to be coming through the door. And they kept in touch with family and friends through text messaging. And the main subject was how many people were getting killed and while they were doing it. And they did find out that Mahal's parents were killed. A school teacher that lived behind them was killed. And then some of the best friends of Eitan were also killed. And the text messages just became dead body counts of how many people were left. As Ira Glass interviewed them, he probed a question and asked, what was the most challenging events that took place while you and your family were down there just waiting? And Mahal, she said, without a doubt, the greatest challenge was not during the attack. That yes, it was horrible and they were anxiety ridden. They had no idea if they were even going to live. To cover their children's mouths while they cried so that the enemy couldn't hear that they were in there. She said the greatest challenge was weeks after the attack was over, when they went back to their home and saw it demolished, and they saw their community separated, and they saw some of the main members of their community had died. And the biggest challenge, she said, was that she looked at her children and she could see in their eyes that they had no sense of purpose. There was no school, there were no friends, there was no sporting activities. There were not even any rules to follow. And she said it's not the same
is living without reason. There's always reason. And she pointed out that your reason for coming and doing the interview has to do with employment and your show and a schedule. But your purpose in doing it is about connection with others and a future that you may enjoy, a future that becomes satisfying, a vision that you will live out. And again, she pointed out to see that in their community, a lack of purpose was the most painful event that she could endure. And she said that if you have no purpose, nothing else matters. I'm sure you've experienced this yourself, where the tasks remain the same, the goals remain the same, but somewhere the vision is not kept alive because you feel like you have no sense of purpose. It's very common today to hear people feel darkened in their lives when they say, I just feel like I'm living with no sense of purpose. If you'd like to support the inspiration of purpose, you can do so by going to patreon.com/nobowtie and just give a small donation. It is how we sustain the shows and all of our efforts. You make the biggest difference in it all. So go ahead and go there. It's simple, and let's get back and enjoy some more inspiration about living that life. Since I heard that interview, it woke something up inside of me that we can structure a sense of purpose in our life and create it anew, even when it is stolen from us, that we can always, every single day, begin again and build a sense of purpose in our life that is satisfying, that does give us a sense of tomorrow, because you have felt it yourself. A day of just running tasks and errands is nothing like a day of doing the same stuff when you have a purpose in mind that's bigger than yourself, a contribution that you can leave. One of the greatest ways to do it is to simply start by doing your best. When you do your best, you are going to refine your discipline, and that refined discipline helps you to know who you are. And when you know who you are, you will quit bullshitting yourself. You will quit fooling yourself into thinking that you're doing your best when really you're just sustaining habits of the past. Doing your best is refining yourself through those disciplines, engaging in the life that you really do want, and the life that you know you deserve to have. And to just a little at a time, each day, stick with it, but you must stick with it. That is one of the things that people overlook the most, is that once you start, do not expect results. Remember, expectation cancels joy. When you start, don't expect results. Just get yourself involved, get the momentum going, and don't look back. Keep on the small things that speak of who you are. Pay attention to your ideas, your interests, your intrigues. Let it lead to an inspiration. And then your to-do list will start to form in a way that makes you feel meaningful, that you do have a purpose, even if it's in the smallest way. I used to think that the best way to connect with people was to do large concerts, and that is totally not true. The best way that I could is to work in small ways, to connect with hearts of people one at a time in smaller situations. It gave me a sense of fulfillment, and it connected with them. The smallest way is enough. It is a small flame that lights the bigger fire. Let that flame burn inside you and take off, but you have to stick with it. That is the only way. And if the first one is to always do your best, the second one, equally important, is bring procrastinating to an end. Procrastinating is doing nothing good in your life. It causes you frustration, disappointment, and in the case of the client that came to see me, it causes depression, because with that procrastination, your purpose is sitting on a shelf waiting for you to engage in it, and it doesn't work that way. Your purpose is not going to call on you. Unlike the storybooks that have unfolded of having a calling, your purpose is not going to call on you. You have to call on it. Always think small about big things. That's how you seep through the cracks and get your momentum going. Do it and prove me wrong. Get back. I'm willing to learn. Do it and prove me wrong. Let me know the better way. But until then, Quit procrastinating. Always do your best and start living that life that you really want to live. And that's why I'm really excited about next week's episode. It's going to be all about finding yourself when you feel lost. Great ways to find yourself. The only thing you really own is yourself. How to find that when you're feeling lost in this world. It's easier than you think. So before I go, I'm going to give you another No Bow Tie musical example. This one comes from J.S. Bach. I hope you enjoy. Be sure to subscribe at nobowtie.com/life. Get on the newsletter and get more of the stuff to inspire you to become the person that you've always wanted to be. Be well. We'll see you next week. Okay, I'm going to play you an excerpt. It's a Bach piece. And I just like the ending. It's just scales, but they work magically together.